I was there with Director Grimes and Fire Chief Bacon and the people from the county when it was raining, and lowering the pathway property a little bit lower. It did hold the water, it came up to the houses, but it didn't go in. So, of course, it wasn't the same rainfalls we had on the 11th of July in 2011. So it does work. So that's the purpose of that. So if there's any questions, I'll gladly try to answer for you.
Do you have an idea of how many people typically take the buyout, or?
That's a good question, Steph. I'm not sure. And my communication right now from Sarah Bills and Stark Parks tells me that some people will take it, some people won't. The way it was determined as to whom they would target. I originally submitted 13 names predicated on the amount of damage over the last 4 to 5 years. And the incidence of flooding. The 2011 flooding was an anomaly. It flooded more houses than it normally did. Even though that we originally ended up, after the meeting, with 32 homes that had expressed an interest in being purchased. And again, they can stay right to the last to the signing. They can back out. We're pretty sure in the first funding that will be between 10 and 13 homes purchased. That's what the money will probably do. And that we do have about 21 to 22 that probably should be taken out. Sure.
I'm not sure if you're going to know all these, but who then owns that? Who takes care of it? Is it part of tearing it down?
They'll level the property. One of the requirements is, and then that's between the homeowner and the Stark Parks is our lead agent, because what had happened, when I found out from the Representative Sherry's office that the grant was available, he called me. He says, great news, but he says, you only have until Friday to get the grant there. We contacted Stark Parks, they're our lead agent and our grant writer. Stark Parks will take possession of the property. It will be deeded to Stark Parks. The houses will be leveled unless the homeowner, and I don't know if that can happen, some of them might want to purchase it and move it. The house will be demolished, the land lowered somewhat, and then it will become green space. It'll be just open green space. Now, I'm sure Stark Parks will be responsible to cut it and maintain it the city code. We haven't got that far with it.
John, when you say lower Denver ditch, are we talking south of Glenwood, or what are the perimeters?
This land goes, this particular grant that we're talking about starts just above Mercy and comes down to our city limits, with the exception of one house is on the list in Arboretum, which I talked to you about that lady. She sustained in the last flood incident about $100,000 damage. She's in Plain Township.
Right.
She's on that list.
Arboretum?
She's at
That's
Arboretum.
not on this list.
Yeah, I don't know her number on it.
Arboretum Circle
Yeah, she's
runs up in Guilford, south of 38th Street.
Yeah, I know where it is, it's just not on this list that I have.
I guess my question is, in the city of North Canton, John, are we looking at the houses there that are south of Glenwood?
Some of them are north of Glenwood.
Some
They
of
get
them
Mercy property, come around Glendale there, there's 3 identified properties there. Some at the north end of Lucille, then coming down Linwood, south of Glenwood on Linwood, all the way down to the city limits.
Okay.
Where Chandler comes
Is there
around.
more or less, is their property abutting the Zimper ditch?
Yes, their property, these
That's
properties.
one of the requirements, they have to abut the
Well,
ditch.
they have to, first of all, have substantial damage.
Okay.
Some of, and most, in our case, 99% of them, of what are.
Yeah, I had a question about somebody asked me in Sheridan, and I said I didn't put an answer, I didn't know the parameters, but I thought you had to be next to the ditch.
Well, that's where we first targeted.
Right. Okay.
And what's the purpose, obviously, is the amount of damage, the close proximity, because it does lessen their cost to demolish the houses, and the amount of flood damage that the insurance companies have to pay. That's the purpose of it.
What was substantial amount, a dollar amount?
Well, some of them were into the close to $100,000. Some of them were as minimal as $2,500. Not on this list, but
That's it.
over the league. But most of the people on the list, on this incident, which was the 11th flooding in July 11th, you know, I would say it was almost bringing me to tears. Marcia, I don't know if you know.
It was furnaces and air, things that the flood
It was
insurance
devastating.
wouldn't cover. It was pathetic. They have flood insurance, but yet it didn't cover like their most expensive thing. It was just unbelievable.
Well, then the heirlooms and the collectibles that these people stored in their basements are just gone.
So there'll be, all the houses that are across from the walking track then in Price Park, those will for the most part be gone, not where it crosses the street, but the ones that are between where it makes the curve and Mercy, those are gonna,
Not all of those, that corner area there is the most prevalent area on that northern
on
end of
that
the
side,
block.
and then on the other side, it's gonna be people living there.
Lynn, here's the list. That's,
Everything adjacent to the ditch.
Right, their land is approximately to the ditch. And every time it rains, unfortunately, those people, they get up, they watch because they don't know when the next one's coming. And they really, that whole allotment, and, they've been there begging for some type of relief, and we finally got some. The other good news is in March of this coming year 14, the Army Corps of Engineers will release their long-range study on it. It's several $million, whether we get all of it done or not. They're going to take, along with the teamwork in the county, are going to address the actual timber from the northern end to the southern end. But again, at every crossing where it crosses, and I know that our engineer has worked on that bridge at Everhard, and that will be taken care of. That's one of the bottlenecks, and that's scheduled for 15. And the ones that Doug will tell you that are in Canton, because that park floods from it. And hopefully we're able to, over the next 2-3 years, get this situation, at least get our arms around it.
Well, I think we set in the right direction, and I don't know if you're gonna make everybody happy down in that area, but depending on what the price offer is, but I think when you're turning a floodplain area basically into a detention basin, that's what you're doing.
Correct.
And flood out, flood back, I think, eliminate a lot of.
Well, one of the major problems that they
So
suffer,
we're working on a solution here, so.
and one of the most major problems that they suffer is they're required by the lender to have flood insurance. So they go to sell their house, they need to have flood insurance to the buyer, which I understand could be several $100s a month, which takes them out of the realm of competitiveness to sell their house in an open market, because all of a sudden, you gotta add $300 to your house payment. People aren't real interested. That's it. But what we'd like to do is suspend the rules and add it to the agenda tonight. Karen's been kind enough to give us a fiscal officer's certificate stating the money's there. We'll send a letter down to the state, tell them the money's there, and it'll be appropriated as soon as they need it.
that would be great.
So, that's
Okay, we'll go to that in the next one. But I do appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody's support. And I know the residents down there appreciate it, and we'll keep you informed of what's going on. And, Aaron, do you have anything you want to add to it all?
Yes, thank you. Really where we're at as far as the flooding, when you look at all the challenges that we face in the city, the residents that live along the Zimmer, clearly, they've been the most impacted out of the seasonal flooding out of, probably any home, not only in North Canton, but I would say in Stark County. Because when it starts to rain there, the flooding becomes a real problem. And I know that most of our council members have seen the flooding firsthand, with the basements flooded, their belongings floated down there, not just once or twice, but it's been numerous times. And the problems have increased over the past 30 years, where we have more homes that have been affected or impacted rather than versus 30 years ago. When John Snyder had called Kirk Sherry and brought him in, that has been the most progress that this city has seen, certainly in the past 15 years, and I would argue probably over the past 30 years, when you look at the Zimmer Ditch flooding. And even myself in the beginning, I knew that it was going to be a big challenge. And where we're at right now with this, with the level of funding that's available, in combination with the commitment from the Stark County Commissioners and the county engineer, this is the most progress that we've ever seen in I would argue for the past 30 years on this. And I know the residents are cautiously optimistic, just as we are. You know, how this is all going to play out in the end just determines, I think it's going to be determined on not as much the funding, but how it impacts each individual property owner. And whether it's going to be the best move for them based on the payout of this as to what decision we make. Because each home has a different value and each situation is a little bit different. But this is the most progress we've ever seen. And this really, I would call this the diamond in the rough of the situation. To be able to have almost a completely funded grant program to buy the homes and turn that into even a lower level catch basin, it's really a great thing. I think we've seen a lot of impact just with the building that was taken down in Plain Township. That's kind of a shallow area there, but there's no doubt that trapped a lot of water at the last rain we had. Again, so it's really been a very comprehensive approach, but it's really working out well. And when John Snyder contacted Kurt Schering, that's really what got the ball rolling as far as the buyout. So this is a great opportunity for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anyone else?
Good job, John.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes.